Hitler's ultimatum reached a quiet villa near Ulm. That afternoon, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel died. His wife Lucy and son Manfred were home. The regime swiftly announced his death from wounds. A hero's funeral followed. His family hid the truth. This secret began in autumn 1944. But what happened to his family? After the war, their fate remained unknown. It severely injured his skull, causing temporary blindness. As he recovered, the regime's grip tightened. Following the failed July 20, 1944, plot against Hitler, the Gestapo apprehended numerous officers. During questioning, some implicated Rommel in the conspiracy. The morning of October 14 saw two generals arrive at their home. Wilhelm Burgdorf, the army's personnel chief, arrived with Ernst Meisel. Meisel was an investigator for the plot. These generals delivered Hitler's ultimatum. Rommel was given a choice. The People's Court meant certain death. Alternatively, he could end his own life. If he chose suicide, the regime guaranteed a state funeral, public honors, plus complete security for his family. His wife Lucy and son Manfred were guaranteed a field marshal's pension. Had he chosen trial, those assurances vanished. Rommel consulted with Lucy and Manfred in private before his final choice. Both testified later that Lucy had urged him to contest the charges. However, Rommel felt survival was unattainable. Outside, armed SS men in civilian attire had already encircled the house. He donned his Afrika Korps jacket and grasped his field marshal's baton. He then moved toward the waiting car. His son, Manfred, later noted his father never looked back as the car drove off. Just minutes later, on a silent road beyond the village limits, Bergdorf's cyanide capsule was consumed by Rommel. Rommel's remains were moved to the local Wagner Schule field hospital. A doctor there then confirmed the exact time of death. The doctor instantly knew the cause was not natural. An autopsy was advised, however, Bergdorf rejected it. Only 10 minutes later, Rommel's phone at the house began ringing. Lucy received news that her husband was dead. On October 18, 1944, after 4 days had passed, a full state funeral was given to Rommel, as per his wishes. A national day of mourning was decreed by Hitler. He also sent Field Marshal Geert von Rundstedt to represent him personally. Rundstedt, ignorant of Rommel's true demise, presented the eulogy. It was announced Rommel had a fatal brain hemorrhage, the regime claimed, a consequence of his Normandy wounds. Rommel's wife Lucy, son Manfred, and adjutant Hermann Aldinger attended the funeral, aware of the truth but remained silent. Rommel's remains were cremated at Ulm's Central Crematorium. His ashes were later laid to rest at Herrlingen Cemetery. This cover-up lasted for another 6 months. On April 27, 1945, Major General Edward Brooks, 6th Corps of American Forces, captured Herrlingen, pushing across the Danube at Ulm. A report from an anti-aircraft battalion mentioned Rommel's widow. Her residence was within the village. Captain Charles F. Marshall, the Corps' intelligence interrogation officer, reached the Rommel residence a short time later. Marshall noted the villa's modest, well-kept appearance. There was no hint of the extravagant life often linked to Nazi leaders. His team observed a library filled nearly completely with books on military topics. One book was American General George C. Marshall's Infantry in Battle, translated. Sitting down with Lucy, he learned the true events of October 14. Lucy explained the general's arrival, the ultimatum, and Rommel's closing moments at home. His son Manfred, at 16, verified the tale in a different letter. At last, the Allies acquired an eyewitness account, detailing how Germany's most renowned commander had truly perished. Over the subsequent months, Lucy stayed at the Herrlingen residence. She faced no arrest or charges. In contrast to families of most high-ranking Nazi figures, she did not face any denazification tribunal. The Allies regarded her as a military officer's widow instead of a political personality. Lucy was granted a modest pension, living a quiet life far from the general public's gaze. For decades, her existence focused on the village of her husband's burial, only a brief distance from their household. Manfred's course in life was much more turbulent. At age 14 in 1943, he joined the Luftwaffe, serving in an anti-aircraft battery. His father previously prevented him from joining the Waffen-SS. Subsequent to Rommel's passing, Manfred kept serving until February 1945. He was then discharged from the Air Force at that point. By March 1945, he was inducted into the paramilitary Reichsarbeitsdienst. With the war disintegrating, he abandoned his post and submitted to General Jean de Lattre de Tassigny's French First Army. In the late 1940s, Lucy started working with researchers wanting to narrate her husband's story. Lucy closely aided British Brigadier Desmond Young in his work. His 1950 biography, Rommel, the Desert Fox, became an international bestseller. By 1953, with Manfred, she aided military historian B.H. Liddell Hart to publish the Rommel Papers, a compilation of his wartime diaries, letters, and campaign notes. Manfred provided the story of his father's ultimate day. In 1962, Lucy advised as a military consultant for the epic war film The Longest Day, and was given an on-screen credit. Lucy passed away on September 26, 1971, interred beside Erwin in Hurlingen Cemetery. Once the war concluded, Manfred finished secondary school in 1947. He proceeded to study law and political science at Tübingen University. He became a member of the Christian Democratic Union in 1953, then began working in Baden-Württemberg civil service, steadily advancing through its administrative hierarchy. In the early 1970s, he was a senior figure in the state finance ministry. His colleagues recognized his surname, but he rarely discussed his father professionally. Then, in December 1974, Manfred ran for Stuttgart's mayoralty, emerging victorious in the runoff election. For over 2 decades, he reshaped Stuttgart, turning it into a fiercely competitive German city. Tolerance and practicality characterized his political approach. He actively promoted the inclusion of immigrant labor, attracted by Stuttgart's booming economy. This was notable as many right-wing politicians often sidestepped such matters then. October 1977 saw him make one of his most highly contentious decisions. Following the deaths of key Red Army faction figures Andreas Baader, Gudrun Ensslin, and Jan Karl Rasper met their end at Stuttgart Stammheim prison, Manfred still ensured they received a fitting burial, despite intense opposition from within his own political group. This particular response of his became a widely cited phrase in German politics following the war. He conveyed that all animosity must eventually cease, and he believed that in this particular instance, death marked its end. Arguably the most remarkable aspect of his public career involved his friendships with the children of his father's wartime adversaries. A deep friendship blossomed between him and U.S. Army Major General George Patton IV. His connections also extended to David Montgomery, 2nd Viscount Montgomery of Alamein, whose station was near Stuttgart. These bonds were widely interpreted as symbolizing both Anglo-German reconciliation and West Germany's integration into NATO. During 1987, the Jerusalem municipality bestowed upon him the Jerusalem Medal for his role in advancing German-Israeli understanding. Germany's paramount civilian honor, the Bundesverdienstkreuz, adorned with its star and sash, was presented to him in 1996 by Chancellor Helmut Kohl. He was additionally honored with the British CBE and the French Légion d'honneur. Upon his retirement in 1996, Manfred published several books and maintained an active role as a public speaker, even though he was battling Parkinson's disease. He passed away in Stuttgart on November 7, 2013, with his wife Liselette and daughter Catherine as his survivors. To honor him, Stuttgart Airport was officially rechristened Manfred Rommel Airport in 2014. Lucy and Manfred constituted only part of Rommel's family. During 1913, well before his marriage, the youthful lieutenant conceived a daughter, Gertrude, with Walburga Stemmer. Rommel's family compelled him to end his relationship with Walburga and rejoin his fiancée Lucy, whom he wed in 1916. Walburga never fully recovered. Her demise came in 1928, the same year Manfred was born. Pneumonia was the official cause, yet certain family records suggest she potentially took her own life. Once Walburga had passed, Rommel and Lucy brought the 15-year-old Gertrude into their care and aided in her upbringing. Lucy led Manfred to believe Gertrude was a cousin rather than an older half-sister. Gertrude communicated via hundreds of letters with her father during the war, and she also knitted him the distinctive checked scarf he used in North Africa, evident in numerous renowned photographs. She frequently visited the family and stayed at Rommel's hospital bed after his unwell return from the desert. She maintained ties with the Rommel family, even following her father's passing. Gertrude's son, Josef, later inherited roughly 150 Rommel letters addressed to Walburga, and then made them public after his mother's passing, thus incorporating a profoundly personal chapter into the Rommel story, which had remained concealed for many decades. The narrative of Rommel's family cannot be disassociated from the mythos that coalesced around his public image. Prior to the war's conclusion, Allied and Nazi propaganda had collaboratively raised Rommel to a standing greater than a mere military commander. He was named the Desert Fox by the British and considered him to be a formidable adversary. Following the war, that persona became advantageous for entirely different objectives. The most prominent figure in influencing post-war viewpoints turned out to be Hans Speidel, Rommel's prior chief of staff, who served in Normandy. By the year 1946, Speidel indicated in 1956 that his goal was to portray Rommel as a hero for the German populace. Having participated in the July 20th conspiracy, Speidel survived the entire war. In the early 1950s, with escalating Cold War tensions and West Germany preparing for rearmament, Speidel championed Rommel's and his personal involvement in the resistance. The strategy proved effective, and Speidel was counted among the Bundeswehr's founders. And, in 1957, he assumed the role of Supreme Commander for NATO's Allied ground forces in Central Europe. To the Western Allies, Rommel embodied what historian Peter Caddick-Adams termed the palatable aspect of German militarism. His coerced demise facilitated his portrayal as a victim of the regime, instead of a participant. Books, Hollywood movies, and academic papers emerging in the early 1950s all strengthened this depiction, forming what researchers now term the Rommel Renaissance, a flow of favorable portrayals, easing the way for West German rearmament. The largest military facility in Germany, the Field Marshal Rommel Barracks at Augustdorf, still retains his name. Decades following the conflict, Afrika Korps veterans, alongside previous British and Commonwealth adversaries, gathered yearly at his Hurlingen grave. However, recent academic research has contested the legend. Researchers like Alaric Sieler and Peter Lieb have scrutinized Rommel's degree of participation in the July 20th conspiracy and critically analyzed his connection to the regime. The discussion persists. Was Rommel an unwilling soldier caught by his circumstances, or an eager participant who profited from the system until it turned on him? Erwin Rommel's passing was meant to be discreet, veiled by a state funeral and a lie regarding his injuries. However, it has evolved into one of the conflict's most contested legacies. His surviving wife, the truth, was preserved. His son forged a path that transformed the Rommel name into something his father could not have envisioned. A symbol of reconciliation, rather than conflict. If this video was insightful, then watch What Became of Hermann Göring's Family